Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to feature my favorite Tarantula comp. I've been experimenting and playing quite a bit with this unit, and I think I found something that works very well for me, even at the very high MMRs. So what do I run? I run range, spider mines, mech rage, and high explosive ammo. Especially this last tech, the high explosive ammo, I have really liked. I think that it transforms this unit into a very capable chaff clear unit. And so you will often see me picking this first. It only costs 150, which is very cheap. And then I'll often follow it up with something like range enhancement, and perhaps I'll add mech rage or spider mines if I need that extra chaff production in certain matchups. Anyway, let's get into the game and I'll show you guys how I like to play this unit. Here we are. So right off the bat, of course, I'll be picking a spider pack here. I will probably go with a quick supply because I don't particularly like giant specialists paired with spiders. You can play something like spiders with overlords, but it's not a very common thing. So I'd rather have the additional supplies to use in the early game, depending on where it's needed, and also have slightly more hit points here at the start. So we go with a Fang Tarantula pack, and you'll see me position aggressively. I've had success only while playing aggro with the Tarantulas. They don't have that much base range, so closing the gap between you and your opponent, I think is a very logical choice and will help this unit shine a bit more. I pick up two crawlers here. I'm up against Sledge Fang, which is actually quite a good matchup for the Tarantula. They tend to do very well against sledges. And I pick up two crawlers here because I think I'll have enough DPS to be able to win at least the first couple rounds just using the Tarantula. And this will set me up for the later rounds where I might want to add more single target DPS, some bigger units to the board. At least I'll already have my chaff set up. Opponent here, still thinking, is a Fire Badger specialist, so lots of mid-sized units will be coming onto the board. And decides to pick up two crawlers as well, so it's 5 chaff here on round 1 for the both of us, but I do think I should be favored. He did happen to gamble the correct side, so does have 3 chaff units here on the right side of the board, but I think we should still be fine. Now, what exactly makes this unit shine? It's really tanky, right? It has almost 16,000 hit points at level 1. If you manage to get a quick level on turn 2, or even on turn 1, then this can snowball rapidly, and it will kind of force your opponent to either get a high DPS unit drop, let's say a level 2 Phoenix or level 3 Phoenix, or it will force them into buying a giant, something like a Melter or a Fortress. And that can be really awkward when you're still in the early stages and you don't have that much money to spend. So the key here is often going to be trying to snowball. But if that doesn't happen, then I've found that high explosive ammo gives me the consistency in games where I might not be ahead as much in the start. Transform this unit into a chaff clear unit and then pair it up with something that is capable of dishing out the damage, something like Phoenix or Sabretooth. Opponent here on round number 2 decides to pick up some Stormcallers. Also does get access to the Fire Badgers, which he throws onto my flank. Both of us pick up the deployment module. And here I was kind of expecting my opponents to try and have a go at my tower. I have played against B-Man quite a few times, and I think that in the past he has tried to go at my towers on like round 2. So here I'm deciding to try and preempt that by buying a crawler and unlocking a wasp. Wasps have been showing up a lot in my games. Jump drive, an especially annoying tech, very cheap, allows you to move the wasps around the field and often force quite a big response out of your opponent. So here I'm trying to buy that and maybe preempt a potential wasp from my opponent. Doesn't look like he goes for it though. And I also bought a third Tarantula kind of to cover this left side and start building my board a bit wider. Of course, I was only able to do so because of the quick supply, and it does mean that I have used most of my bonus resources here on round 2. Now, of course, the badgers after spawning in do manage to win out against those fangs. Nothing too crazy there. And the Stormcallers are a fantastic purchase for my opponent. 19,000 damage already, managing to take out the two spiders on the right side. Luckily for me, it's a default win, as my opponent doesn't have any anti-air to speak of this round. And then the question will be, does my spider survive? Seems like the answer will be no, but at least the wasps will be able to clean up all of the remaining units. Just gotta wait for them to chase down these pesky fire badgers. They do manage to get a debuff, but in the nick of time, my wasps get the job done. And so round 3 here, we get 3 unit drops. And here, I mean, I did mention to the 2 units I like to play the most with this, right? Sabretooth and Phoenix. Now, Sabretooth is kind of my preferred unit because it adds another, like, mid-sized, really tanky unit to the board, and it can make it super difficult for my opponent to deal with both the tanky spiders and the tanky sabers. So here, really, I'd rather pick the Saber. I was a bit wary, a bit scared that my opponent might pick the Phoenix and I would get stuck having no anti-air. But because I had these Wasps and they did pick up the level, I decided to make a bit of a gamble, go for my preferred unit, and just cross my fingers and say, I hope my opponent picks the Farseer to be able to deal with my Wasp. And, well, that way I don't need to invest in anti-air or more dedicated anti-air than Wasp just yet. And this is where I start to build this board that I really like. I go for a corner Sabretooth paired with a shallow flank of Crawler and Tarantula. What this does effectively is kind of extend my front line, but it also allows my Sabretooth to be on the line and be close to the units that my opponent might want to put here on the corner to be able to deal with my shallow flank. And effectively, I will have my single target DPS unit that gets protected by these corner crawlers and also gets help from the Tarantula as the chaff clear unit. So that way my single target DPS and my chaff clear are paired up very, very nicely. Opponent went for another Farseer on the left side, by the way. And it is doing a great job here, managing to clean up most of my units. The only thing that will survive here is a pack of Fangs and my Saber, which does manage to pick up a level, by the way. That level 2 Farseer did end up dying to it. And these guys, they pack a punch. 18,000 damage at level 3, 6k per level. It's a lot. Now here, efficient light manufacturing is actually quite nice for my comp, because I will likely just be spamming spiders, sabers, no giants. However, it's a bit of an early card, and so I decided to skip it because I think I need my money to be able to grab these levels on my units and still be able to purchase enough deployments as well. So instead I decided to go for the underground threat. The bonus to this as well is I actually can protect my backside from a potential underground threat from my opponent. He didn't pick it up though. He does decide for the efficient light manufacturing, and here does something a bit unusual. I wasn't expecting this at all. Goes for acid crawlers. And what you'll see me do here, by the way, is that I picked up this deployment module. Now, of course, jump drive would have been just as inexpensive to click, but I thought maybe the module would be useful down the line. I've been moving around my Wasp, right, to be able to protect this tower on turn 2, to be able to defend the flank against the badgers on turn 3, and I expected him to sell out of them this turn, which is why I'm moving them back to the main army and now using a mobile beacon to try and prod at one of his weak diagonals, right? The outside is pretty well protected, and over here I don't really have much, and this Farseer in the back might be a problem, but I can probably pull this to the edge and then get in over here to be able to pick up a quick debuff. Now, on this turn I decided to pick up HE, which turns out pretty well considering my opponent, I think, went for triple crawler, and so the additional chaff really justifies that tech decision. As you see here, my Wasps do manage to get in, take out the Stormcallers, take out the tower, And that should allow me to swiftly dispatch of this kind of scary Farseer. I still have to make my way over to the other side though, and my Tarantula there will unfortunately perish in the acid pool. We can speed things up here, but it should be another good round for me, and I'm still sitting at full hit points. So, relatively comfortable as we enter the mid-game. Round 5. And another unit drop shows up. Now, nothing here really catches my eye. I could go for Marksman spec, or just Marksman, because my anti-air is kind of weak, right? It's just Wasps and a couple Fangs. But here I really want to try and kind of push the pace and keep going for this Tarantula Saber build. Not care too much about anti-air just yet. And yeah, just try and force my opponent to really respond to the ground threats before he tries to commit to something more cheesy, right? And so what I do here is I decide to pick up the level 3 Typhoon, like my opponent, but unlike my opponent, I decide to sell it to be able to fund levels and the second tech on my Tarantulas being range, allowing them to chaff clear from a bit further away and clear the path more easily. And here what you'll see me do is start building onto the left side. I'm pretty happy with how things are going onto the right, but I want to keep my opponent interested in the left side. And so what I do here is I pick up a Sabertooth, put a Tarantula in this shallow flank, put a Crawler up here, because what this will do is pull the units in this top quadrant to the side, meaning that they won't be advancing and able to defend the tower, which is where I am moving my Wasps. I also add a missile, just in case he added some chaff. Doesn't end up doing so, but it still does decent damage onto those leveled sledges. And I get another quick debuff here. And you can really see the power of these leveled Wasps, right? I haven't really invested into them at all. I just purchased them and leveled them, which means that I can easily get back the credits if I want to by selling them. But this deployment module allows me to make a lot of early game plays, get rounds under my belt, do some damage to my opponent, and then once I get more money, hopefully I can prove an advantage and kind of close out the game because my opponent is sitting on, let's say, half health. Still though, I was really surprised this round by how well my opponent was able to defend, even though he did get debuffed for 9 seconds. Farseer is able to clear up another Tarantula there, so I don't even do that much damage. But round 6 and my opponent's at 2200, and I'm still full health. So I can't complain too much there. B-Man here picking up the Incendiary Bomb. I was expecting this, of course. I mean, my right side is pretty chaff heavy, and because I'm on the line, I won't be able to shield the fire. At least some of it will land. So here I'm just deciding that I'll take the loss with the fire. And instead, Underground Threat is offered again. And I pick it up. And what I'm doing here is using the Underground Threat to basically make up for my lack of chaff this round. I'm expecting the fire, and I'm expecting to not have chaff here. So instead, I use the Underground Threat on the top right, knowing that the Farseer isn't the best or fastest chaff clear unit, and hoping to distract it for long enough that it can make up for, yeah, my bigger units here being exposed on the front line. Opponent does shield twice. Also, both of his towers are now level 2, meaning that they're much tankier, and they only give 7 seconds of debuff each. I decide to pick up range finally on the Saber to kind of match the range I gave to the Spiders the round before. And I sold my Wasps because I thought I'd kind of abused every possible angle that I could. And I wanted to retrieve that money and be able to invest it into 2 new level 2 Sabers. So here you can really see me starting to pair up the Sabers with the Spiders. Make sure that each Saber has at least one Spider kind of escorting it and making sure that the path is free of chaff. As you can see, I managed to delay the backside quite a bit, at least enough to be able to clear all the units in front of his tower. The only problem now is that unfortunately there, my Spider is locked onto the tower instead of the chaff. And it looks like these Farseer, now double teched with range and EMP, are starting to come alive. And while the unit isn't particularly known for having insane late game DPS, when paired up with the acid pools, it can rack up very, very quickly. Round 7 here. Improved firepower control system, kind of interesting. We both decide to pick it up. Cheap item and gives quite a lot of attack stats, right? Gives that bonus 70%. I decide to throw it onto one of my high-level spiders, as it has been doing a fantastic job here. Even with HE, which diminishes your damage, it still managed to do 135,000 damage, second on my team for this game. And the first one is actually the other spider. Now here my opponent decides to buy oil from the tower. Doesn't have any fire mechanics, but just wants the slow. I decide to add some more chaff here, kind of still expanding towards the left. Deciding to put some crawlers in the corner here to also pull this Farseer and prevent it from insta-locking. It is very scary though. 240,000 damage, level 4, double tech, and has the improved firepower control system. I decided to click Missile Interceptor. Usually I'd go for double shot, but I don't think I need it here because there's nothing too tanky on my opponent's board. And he does have a lot of missiles. Decided to go for Launcher Overload a couple turns ago on his storms. And the Farseer missiles can also be intercepted, even though that is somewhat difficult. I wasn't expecting to intercept everything here, but if I can intercept some things, then I think that's already kind of worth it. Right side doing well for me, but again, getting slowed down. Luckily, the Saber manages to find the range to lock on. Do keep in mind that I am getting temp speed and temp range here to hopefully get through the oil ever so slightly quicker. And yeah, this Farseer in the back is a real menace. My units are really struggling to get there, and they get kind of distracted moving towards the middle. Unfortunately, the Saber not quite able to intercept the missiles anymore, and so will end up falling. Another round in favor of my opponent. 2 Farseers survive, and now I'm down to 2.8k. It's been a while since I won a round, so I would like to turn the tables again here. Another unit round. I don't really need anything here, if we're being honest. So I'm just deciding to pick up the melting point and sell it to get the most credits as fast as possible. And I'm using it again here to be able to afford more levels. I do know that in this scenario, I don't have any anti-air, but I'm kind of willing to gamble until my opponent really shows me that he wants to punish that. And instead, I kind of want to keep building this board, right? Keep adding sabers, keep adding spiders. I'm already thinking about Spider Mine, and this is the turn that I click it, because Farseer will shoot both of their missiles at the same target. So if they shoot both missiles at one mine, and then shoot again at the other mine, I think I can delay his DPS for quite a while, right? Distract him. And then on top of that, mines have enough HP that they don't die to ground effects like fire, and should help me overcome this game where I'm fighting up against Incendiary, Sticky Oil Bomb. My opponent now picking up that free level 3 Vulcan and deciding to go for Incendiary. So I'm really hoping that the Spider Mines here will pay off. Tower on the right, by the way, now level 3. I do manage to get a quick lock onto this Vulcan here, and so it gets dispatched of rapidly. Left side is looking much better now too. I don't think my opponent was expecting this. My left side was kind of weak for the past 7 rounds, but I've now finally managed to get enough spiders and sabers onto that side, and so now we strike back. And this was a much more convincing round. I was definitely very happy with my choice here. Get those spider deployments onto the board, and then justify the third tech, those spider mines, to be able to overwhelm your opponent and kind of punish his chaff clear that is unable to deal with this tech. Round 9. Another improved firepower control system shows up. Shield airdrop as well. Opponent decides to go for the improved. So do I. And so here I was basically... Now I'm starting to think, okay, my opponent is within kill shot, right? Like, if I win one more round here, I should take him out. So how do I lose? Of course, I have been very aware of the fact that I had no anti-air for the past couple rounds, and so now I'm deciding to preemptively kind of get into that. Just so happens, my opponent also, finally now, when he's on the brink of defeat, wants to kind of use this trump card and say, okay, now I'm going to punish you for this, and hopefully it'll buy me some time. I decided to pick up 2 Typhoons here because I was expecting something more along the lines of Wasp from him. But instead it ends up being a triple level 2 Wraith with range as well as floating artillery array, which is not exactly what I expected. So yeah, I did end up going for some late Typhoons here, making sure that they don't get insta-locked and are able to potentially survive and deal with the air threat. But I think this is a little bit too tall of a task for them. They're not really meant to kill tanky air units, these Typhoons. And so you will see them being locked on there, but the Wraith are able to DPS for quite a while. And while I do manage to take out the 2 outside Typhoons, the one in the middle is unscathed. And it still bought so much time that the Farseer in the back are able to DPS freely. And it means that B-Man picks up a round. But now I know what I'm up against. And because we're in round 10, I have a lot of available resources. And so I can just easily get the thing that I want. B-Man here picks up the portable shield. I go for shield airdrop because I know that incendiary bomb is available. And the nice thing about shield airdrop is that it allows me to put a shield slightly onto his side of the board. So I was expecting him to fire the right side again because it has way more chaff, right, than this left side, which only has a Fang pack and a Crawler pack. So I'm defending against that. Underground threat is available for me again. I decided to sell one of my sabers because it was shooting at chaff all round and didn't do anything. This gets me enough resources to be able to get triple blue Phoenix with range and charge shot. This is kind of one of my preferred counters to things like Wraith. If it locks on, it'll be able to take it out very, very quickly indeed. And I use my remaining resources here to missile out these front crawlers and get a final shield to defend the right side and not have all of my chaff burn up instantly. Of course, both of us have been loning here, and my opponent actually deciding to level both of his towers to level 4. So only willing to be debuffed for 3 seconds if I even manage to take that out. Let's see how this shapes up. Phoenix is here though, well positioned, instantly lock onto that Wraith which he decided to level and goes out instantly. The other one was given an item too, picking up that portable shield there this turn. Takes a bit longer, left side though, easy peasy, everything's cleared. The charge shot Phoenixes and those high level sabers should have no problem taking out the tower. Same thing on the right side. The final Wraith goes down. And with that, my comp has finally managed to close out the game. It's fully come online. And I managed to take the win on round 10. So, this has kind of been one of my favorite comps to play when I try to make Tarantula work. Kind of a staple play that I like to do is to go for this corner saber and pair it up with like these 2 tarantulas, one in the shallow flank with some crawlers. What this crawler does essentially is it prevents any unit from insta-locking onto this guy here in the corner because it'll be closer to these crawlers, right? Essentially, this is just an extension of my front line. But this allows the saber to be on the line still and just be closer to the action. Get rid of any units that they might place here and kind of go for this diagonal, which is very annoying to deal with. It's also paired up with the tarantula here on the left. And then again, we see these pairings of tarantulas with sabers. Same thing on this side. I didn't add a crawler here because, well, I just didn't deem it necessary. There wasn't anything. My opponent wasn't really punishing this positioning by trying to put something here. So it was all good. And yeah, I will often be going for HE first into range. But you can kind of see what you need, right? If your opponent has a lot of chaff, then HE is very nice. If not, you can even go for range, especially if you get some levels on the Tarantulas. They can be enough of a DPS unit. If your opponent goes for air units early, you can also pair this with Phoenix instead of Sabretooth. You don't need to play Sabretooth if you don't want to. You can also add Phoenixes later on, as you see in this game. And I've even played a game with some Overlords from a free unit drop. That also works. You can go carry Overlord. I don't think it's the best, but yeah, you can kind of mix and match and adapt to the game as you need. All right. And that is all from me. If you liked this video, please leave a like. Comment down below what you think of Tarantula. Do you like the unit? Do you hate it? Is high explosive your favorite tech as well? Or do you like running something else? Do let me know. If you want to see me play live, please check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.